I felt really stupid reading it. Their stories were just like heart-wrenching, very disturbing. I think this book is glow in the dark. I had to go on Reddit to try to understand what the ending meant. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Shannon Margaret B, and tomorrow I am starting a very exciting 24-hour reading challenge. So I thought I would show you all of the books that I plan to read and explain it to you really quickly. These are the books that I am planning on reading. They'll kind of have a good mix of like a long novel, maybe like 2 mid-sized novels, and then like 2 short ones. So we'll be reading Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. So this is like a horror sci-fi, I believe. And a pretty anticipated read, Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. I heard this is like a fun, magical bookstore book. The Guest by Emma Cline. I was supposed to film like a Emma Cline reading like author review, but I started reading The Girls and I really didn't like it, but I really wanted to read The Guest. So I'm going to include it as part of like my 24-hour reading challenge instead. Another kind of horror book is Chlorine by Jade. I've heard really great things about this one, and it's pretty short, so it felt like a good thing to put into my 24-hour reading challenge. And then All the Light We Cannot See, I wanted to throw a historical fiction in here. This is also a really highly anticipated read for me, and I'm excited to see what Anthony Doerr brings to the table in this book. It is pretty long. I feel like sometimes historical fiction, like once you get lost in it, it like goes super fast. So I thought it would be a good pick. So we got a good mix here. Just to explain quickly how I'm going to do the 24-hour reading challenge. Most people will like read from like 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. the next day, but pretty much what I'm doing is I'm setting a 24-hour timer, and I'm going to stop and start it every time I'm actually physically reading or listening to an audiobook over the next couple of days. So this will definitely take a couple of days, probably reading about like 4 or 5 hours a day. I really want to be able to see like how many books can I actually read like within an actual 24 hours of reading, and not like a full day of 24 hours, if that makes sense. I am interested to see if I will be able to finish all of these within the 24-hour timer. Come along, I'm really excited, and let's see how many of these I can read. We are 1 hour down and about a third of the way through Annihilation. We are starting off on a good foot. This book is fantastic so far. It starts off like you're in it. You're dropped into the 4 people on an expedition to figure out what is going on at Area X. There's been expeditions that came before them, and certain types of people are chosen to go on each expedition to kind of further the cause, to figure out what the heck is like in Area X and what happened in that part of the world. I really like it, and I really like it's like horror aspect to it. It's like creepy and fun. I don't know, it's like written in a really playful way at the same time. I don't know, but like our narrator is a little unreliable in my opinion, so I don't know if like everything we're told is like what's actually happening, and that's also like a fun aspect to it. And the whole time I'm reading it, I'm like, I wonder if I'll end up reading the other books in the trilogy, because this is just the first book in the Southern Reach trilogy. Right now, this book feels a little like if Station 11 and The Troop by Nick Cutter like had a baby, because you have like that creepy sense of like getting infected by these things. They don't know what's in the air, they don't know what's in the walls, and they like have to be so careful to not get infected because other expeditions before them have. Gabby Reed's sprints start very soon, so I'm gonna turn those on. I'm on page 121, chapter 4 of Annihilation, and there was just like kind of a big thing that happened, and the story kind of took another turn. There's like a lighthouse and these tunnels, so like we're just exploring still and finding out things. Kind of cool the way it's like all unraveling. So it is much later. I'm back from my plans. I did not listen to anything while I was out. I really thought I was going to on like the drive there and back, but then I realized I didn't actually have Annihilation on Libby. I thought I had taken it out, but I never did. And then I was like, oh, that's fine, I'll just like go borrow it. But there was a wait for it, so I should have put a hold on it like a couple days ago, and I thought that I got it, but I didn't have it. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to put Gabby's reading sprints back on. I think they're going until midnight, and it's already 7 o'clock now, so I gotta get my reading groove going. I will see you in an hour. What the heck did I just read? I really liked the first 100 pages, and then like the last 90 pages was just like whacked out. I just like sat on Reddit for 10 minutes and read people's theories. Let me zoom out. These 4 people, there's 11 expeditions before them. All things go wrong. They keep sending in different groups into this Area X world or place. We don't really know what like Area X fully is. So this group is like surveyor, a psychologist, an anthropologist, and a biologist. So we read from the point of view of the biologist. And I didn't read spoilers for book 2 and 3. I'm absolutely going to read book 2 and 3 because I'm very interested. They said that books 2 and 3 you get different points of view. So I don't know if they meant you get different points of view of what happened in this particular expedition group of 4 people. I felt really stupid reading it, but after reading Reddit, I feel better. I feel like I'm not way off because like pretty much all of Reddit, like every person was saying like you're supposed to feel like this is a weird, confusing experience. I was frustrated reading it, but I love when books do that. It reminded me of The Cabin at the End of the World. He has a really good, I forget, Paul Tremblay has a really good afterword. Is that what it's called? It's really cool. Oh, it's like, wait, is that a spoiler on the end? Like the version I have has this like PS insights, interviews, and more. It was chapter by chapter. This version's really cool. I don't know if all of the versions of this book have this, but it goes chapter by chapter. It has like a sketch he has, and it explains like why things were colored the way they were, why this lamp was a touch point for every character of the book. Like, it's really fascinating, and I think he like pretty much explains his intention. I didn't like this book, and then I read the PS interview insights. I like completely changed the way I thought of the book, because I think if an author is trying to make you aggravated, frustrated, on edge, anxious, just confused, like they want you to feel that way. I think with Annihilation, it's kind of like that same vibe of like you don't really know what's happening. Like, as much as this aggravated me, I think understanding the reasoning behind it, I can't lie, I was like getting toward the end and I was like, is this gonna be a 3? But I kind of want to bump it to like a 3.75 because it was so fast, it was so engaging. But yeah, I was so lost at the end, but knowing that you're supposed to be lost makes it okay, because I'm like, look, the author achieved what he wanted us to achieve. I did what he wanted. I was lost, I was confused, I was questioning everything. I'm only 3 hours into this 24-hour readathon, so we have 1 book down. In, and I read physically for a half hour, and then I switched to the audio, and the audiobook is very good. I like the guy's voice. It like captures the whimsicalness of this book. About 70 pages in, so that was a solid hour of physically reading and listening. I also got some of my coaster done. I'm probably just gonna sit here and do the whole thing tonight. This book is really fun. So we're following our main character Clay, and he needs a job. He's like a coder, marketer type of person, like builds campaigns, and he stumbles across Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore. So he's given the night shift, and he also has to like log like all these random things about the patrons. So they're kind of like a book club. They're borrowing books. I don't really know how they were all like brought into this book club or how one gets into the book club. Clay very early on is given the rule like, don't look at any of the books, like you're not allowed to open them and read them. It's very like magical and mysterious, and I really like the vibe of it so far. I don't know if it's like the cover of it or just because I knew it was kind of like a classic bookstore book. I thought it might be more like not stuffy written, but like highbrow, like not as silly. And this book is definitely has some like silly, whimsical elements to it. About halfway through Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore. I almost finished the coaster, but I don't have it in me. I'm too tired. I'm gonna get ready for bed. I think tonight I want to finish this, and I actually know I'm definitely gonna finish it because I'm really into it, and something kind of happened, and now we're on like another journey of the book. I feel like it's almost like part 2. Like this might be a 5-star. It might be. It's definitely trending towards 4, but I think it's gonna be like this second half adventure that we're going on. I think it's gonna be like, how is that and how does it wrap up? I will update you in the morning. Hello. I gave this a 2.5 out of 5. I thought it was such a good setup. It was such a good idea, but it just like fell apart in my opinion towards the middle. And I don't know if it's because I finished it when I was tired or what, but I just really didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I thought I would. Like after it got to like the halfway point, it just started to kind of feel like dumb, to be honest. And I just felt like it was a little funny, but I still gave it 2.5 because I thought it was like a really fun, good setup concept. But I just didn't like where it went to. I thought it was just like too silly for me. Also, if you didn't know, I think this book is glow in the dark because I had it next to my bed. I turned the light off. It must have like got souped up under my lamp, and it was completely glowing in the dark. It was like really freaky, to be honest. I don't really like the fact that it's glow in the dark. I'm going to start the day with Chlorine and let you know how this goes. I think after that, I actually don't know which one I want to read next after that, but we're gonna see how this goes, how I'm doing on timing. So 16 hours to go, starting now. So I just read for about 2 hours, so I have 14 hours left total. But I'm on chapter 12, page 125, and this book's only 230, so I'm over halfway there. This story is so interesting, and it's supposed to, I heard that it's supposed to be more towards like horror, but it's crazy because it feels a little horror-ish and suspenseful and like scary, but in reality, like all she's talking about is like the adolescence and growing up and like going through puberty as like a young girl, and she's a swimmer, so it follows this girl Ren, and it's just like how she grew up and like dating boys. Just so interesting because it feels like the essence of a horror novel, but like wrapped up in a very normal childhood and like existence. There's definitely some like trigger warnings for like self-harm, eating disorders, etc., like surrounding people who, you know, try to lose weight for their sport and stuff like that. I wish it was longer because I feel like I could read about Ren for a long time. The first like 20 pages, I was like, this might just be too weird for me, and I think because Annihilation was really weird also, I'm like, oh, do I want something that's so incredibly weird right now? I actually just downloaded this on Libby, so the audiobook's only 8 hours, but I'm gonna switch to audio, get some stuff done, and I will check in with you when I finish Chlorine. I ended up listening to a lot of the ending because I just was doing a bunch of chores around the house, and I also like got myself together a little bit because I felt like a mess. But I finished Chlorine. There is an author's note in the beginning of this book that has all of the triggers in it, so make sure you read that before you read this because it is a little, it's very disturbing. I thought this book was really good. I think I enjoyed that the author had so much restraint to not make it longer. I would say this is kind of on the precipice of a novella. I mean, it's a little over 200 pages. It feels like a complete story. It doesn't feel like it needs to be any longer than it is. But I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. It's just an interesting story. It was like very refreshing to read from the perspective of like a high school girl going through her life as a swimmer, and just also bringing in like that horror element. I thought was kind of a neat way to do it, although the book overall is very disturbing. Surprised this has been on my TBR for quite some time, so I'm really, really glad I got through it. I am kind of in the mood for like historical fiction, so I'm gonna start this. I do have it on audio, so I can do some crafting, but I'm gonna start it physically first, and I have 12.5 hours left, so in 11.5 hours, I finished Chlorine, Annihilation, and Mr. Penumbra. So we're doing good. That's 3 books down. So I will check in with you when I have an update. and a half and I'm on page 107, part 3. And so far, this book is about Marie Lore. I don't know if it's Marie or Marie Lore. I have to like Google how you say it. She is a young girl who's gone blind and she lives in Paris with her father, and her father like takes really good care of her and builds like a model of a city. And there's also this elusive gemstone that's really valuable and holds like a lot of like spiritual meaning that is in this museum that her father works in. Also following Warner, who is in Germany at like a children's home with his younger sister Jade. I feel like I'm butchering all of these names. Really like heartwarming story so far, and I feel like I'm reading it a little slower than I usually read books just because I'm like taking it all in. And I feel like Anthony, again, I'm gonna butcher another name, Doerr, Anthony Doerr. The setup of the story, I don't know if it's just that there's like a museum element. If you see me like petting him, it's I don't know if it's because there's like a museum element to the story, but I'm finding like a lot of similarities in how I felt when I read The Goldfinch, and how like we're kind of following like this precious gemstone. It kind of feels similar to like The Goldfinch when the painting goes missing from the museum and we're following the character through his whole entire life. So I feel like this is kind of how the story might kind of go as well. I think I'm enjoying it so much because I haven't read a historical fiction in a hot minute. I don't really want to rush it, so I'm going to be taking my time quite a bit with it. We cannot see. It did take me a couple days to get through, but what I was doing was I was like stopping and starting my timer to know how long I had left. It took me 7 hours and 55 minutes to read with like stopping and starting a timer. I have like 4 hours and 10 minutes left of this challenge. I'm going to move on to the next book, but first I just wanted to talk quickly about this book. I really liked it. This is a 5 out of 5. Loved the Marie Lore character and Warner, and their stories were just like heart-wrenching and so heartfelt, and I really enjoyed this book. And I was gonna like craft during it or like check in more, but it was just one of those books that, you know, like doesn't come very often. I felt the same when like I read The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna and The Goldfinch, and like you just don't want, like you want to read it, like you want to be fully submerged, not be focusing on anything else. So I really like didn't want to keep stopping to like update you because I was just enjoying it so much the whole time, and there was really never a part where I felt like it like plateaued or fell off. It's just like so good and so solid throughout, and I think it's really fascinating. I think this book is the first like historical fiction book that made me think about this, about how like people who are survivors of war, or even if like they weren't directly like fighting in the war, but all of the effects, like not having food or getting put into a prison camp, or like all these crazy things that people went through during the war, like how they have to still like live on and like keep going about their lives like nothing happened afterwards, and like years and years later the effects that it has on them. And I thought that that was really interesting that that was included in this book, because I feel like a lot of historical fictions I read kind of just like end and you're kind of left to just be like, okay, and then they grew old and had grandchildren and now they're happy. Like it doesn't give you that insight, and I feel like this gives you the insight into like what were the effects on the people after World War II. I also really enjoyed the friendship element of Warner and Frederick, and it actually really closely, in my opinion, resembled like the friendship between the two characters in The Goldfinch that I liked so much. And when I was reading this, I was like, I feel like this is very similar to like how Donna Tartt writes, but I would say Anthony Doerr is like way more to the point. Like I didn't feel like there was anything like ambiguous or like difficult to understand. It was just like to the point. You trusted the narrators, like there wasn't like that unreliable narrator piece, so you kind of just like accept what you're being told. And I feel like I like that because a lot of the books I read lately, it's like unreliable narrators are a big thing. It was a large book, but like it went so fast, and I was like sad that it was finishing. Also just like a beautiful book. I'm like, should I display this? Back to my Emma Cline video, because I started reading The Girls and I just like did not enjoy it whatsoever. So I was like, I'm just gonna not do like an author study video on Emma Cline, but I do still want to read The Guest, and this is a little bit of a shorter book, and the audiobook is like 9 hours, which equates to like 4.5 hours on 2 times speed. I think for the time that I have left, like 4 hours and 15 minutes, I'm going to read The Guest. I don't know much about this. I think it's about kind of like a grifter, like a girl who just kind of just finds her way. That's like all I kind of know about this book, but I think it'll be like a fun, quick read. So also I think I'll be able to concentrate on this enough where like I can do some hobbies. This I do have an audio from Libby, so I will be listening to it and reading it and hopefully getting some work in on my book actually the next day, and I have some updates, or we have some updates. The book nook, I don't know what happened. So I have the Romantic Venice book nook, and that was like a lot of pieces that like snapped together. This one, the one that I was working on, is like a lot harder. There's way more pieces. You have to like cut things out, and there's like no easy way to cut them out. And then there's also paint involved, and there's a lot of gluing involved. So it's just very different from the other one that I did. I'm like up to the challenge, but I also was just like, this was not as mindless as I wanted it to be because I was looking for something mindless to do. So I'll probably continue my book nook at another later date. But I got a big dent of the way into The Guest. I'm on chapter 7, page 162. I feel very like meh about it so far. There's nothing that I'm like excited about. Pretty much it's about this girl Alex, and she's kind of, I think they call them like a grifter. Like she's trying to look for her next person to like take advantage of so that like she has somewhere to sleep, someone to steal money from. She just like is kind of like leeching on to these people until like they figure out that she's like a con woman pretty much. I'm gonna finish that, and then that will be the end of my 24-hour reading challenge because I only have about 2 hours left of the challenge. I finished The Guest by Emma Cline. I finished my 24 hours of reading. Does anyone want to explain it to me? Anyone that's read this want to explain it to me? This was a terrible example of ambiguity, in my opinion. And why is this the second book in this 24-hour reading challenge that I had to go on Reddit to try to understand what the ending meant? Like, I just think Annihilation, ambiguous, but interesting. The Guest, ambiguous, and I don't care. Here's my issue. She's always drifting and grifting, whatever that means. And there's just not a point where she stops and she's like, can I be a better human and try to fix this in a different way? Like, she's just in turmoil page after page and like doing the wrong thing. And there is something in this book that involves her with a younger man, and I don't want to read about that. I think that's weird and creepy and gross, and I don't want to read about that. This was so disappointing. I didn't like this. I did not like this. I wish I did. It was very anticipated for me. I was very excited. I didn't like it, and it just felt unnecessary. It felt like a lot of things in here were absolutely unnecessary, and I don't mind things being included to give you some sort of social commentary or some sort of evoking an important feeling in you. I have annoyance invoked. You read this, please let me know what you thought. Unfortunately, we're leaving off on a bad note, but overall, I read 5 books in 24 hours for an experiment to see like how much can you physically read in 24 hours if you're like zoned in. Like my 24 hours, I would say I was like zoned in the whole time, and like that's why I was stopping and starting and doing it in different sittings, because I knew if I did it all in one day, which I will try in the future, but I knew I was gonna be tired and not really be able to get to read much. I'm glad with what I got to accomplish. Today I got to read like 3 really strange books, and I would recommend these 2 books, Chlorine and Annihilation. I thought were great. They were strange. The Guest, you know how I feel about that. Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore was a great novel with an interesting storyline, but I ultimately just felt like it felt flat by midway through it. The first half was great, and I think there probably is definitely an audience for this book. And then my 5-star, of course, All the Light We Cannot See. I just got another book at a book sale by Doerr, so I'm very excited to see if he could be like a new favorite author for me if I read another book of his that I really enjoy. But this book was just fantastic. I think don't be intimidated by the size of it. If you take anything away from this video, I think you would really enjoy this book. If you have like a shred of interest in historical fiction, definitely read this. I think it's also a great place to start with historical fiction, although it is long. I just feel like it's very easy to follow and you don't really have to know like a lot of history going into it, in my opinion. Next time I'll definitely try to take on the reading for 24 hours straight. This was obviously asynchronous reading of 24 hours straight. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon in another video. Bye!